It looked like something stolen from a sci-fi movie set. Smooth, winged, and impossibly futuristic. The GM Firebird I wasn't just a concept car. It was a jet fighter dressed for a fashion show. It had a turbine engine, a bubble cockpit, and the elegance of something designed not to drive, but to defy gravity. One glance and you could almost hear it whisper, "Welcome to the future." But the reality? This thing had no doors, no real brakes, and enough exhaust heat to barbecue anything standing behind it. The same feature that made it feel like progress also made it a hazard to birds, trees, and human dignity. It wasn't a car. It was a science experiment with marketing. And GM almost let it loose on public roads. That's the thing about concept cars. They're not always built to move people. They're built to move headlines. And sometimes that rush to impress turns into a rush to the emergency room. But this jet-powered oven was just the beginning. Trust me, some of the disasters on this list make the Firebird look like a responsible family sedan. And the one at number 1, it made me laugh and wince at the same time. Number 10, Firebird I. In the early 1950s, GM introduced something so bold, it made the average American sedan look like a butter knife next to a rocket launcher. The Firebird I was their vision of tomorrow, a jet-powered, fiberglass-skinned missile that looked suspiciously like the F-104 starfighter. It had a turbine engine capable of reaching airplane-level speeds on roads built for bicycles and Buicks. No airbags, no bumpers, and certainly no plans for stopping once you got going. It had experimental brakes and zero practicality because, apparently, GM let the aerospace engineers skip driver's ed. The cockpit was sealed like a fighter jet, the dashboard resembled a war room, and the rear exhaust reached temperatures so absurd it could turn a tailgater into charcoal. This wasn't a car, it was an ego trip molded in fiberglass. And while it never saw public roads, it proved just how disconnected visionaries can become when no one tells them no. It was impressive, yes, but also insane. A machine that said more about mankind's hunger for spectacle than any serious step toward the future. And unbelievably, it still wasn't the worst idea to roll out of a concept studio. Number 9, BMW Gina. BMW once asked a question no one else dared to. What if a car could move like muscle, bend like skin, and respond like it was alive? The result was the Gina, a concept draped not in metal but in fabric, tight, stretchable, and unnervingly human. It blinked, yes, blinked. The headlights would squint open from beneath its synthetic skin like a sleeping robot waking up from a nap. It could morph its shape on command, adjusting curves and contours as if it had bones underneath. But here's the thing. When your car has folds, you start thinking about things like sagging, tearing, and whether it can catch a cold. A bad hailstorm could turn it into a deflated tent. Road rash? That's no longer just cosmetic, it's a flesh wound. The whole idea teetered on brilliance and madness, as if someone at BMW R&D thought, what if our car could suffer from aging? Gina was mesmerizing, yes, but also deeply unsettling. It pushed boundaries no one asked to be pushed, and in doing so, reminded us that innovation without restraint quickly becomes performance art on 4 wheels. Number 8, Dodge Dior. The Dodge Dior was the automotive equivalent of a fashion model wearing ski boots. Stunning from a distance, but absurd the moment it tried to move. Built in the late 60s, it was meant to embody surf culture and forward-thinking design. But it skipped one small detail: how human beings actually enter a car. There were no doors. None. To get in, you lifted the front windshield and crawled through like you were breaking into your own vehicle. Imagine showing up to a date, sliding in face first, while muttering apologies and hoping your belt doesn't catch on the steering wheel. The Dior looked like something a Hot Wheels designer dreamed up after skipping lunch. Sleek, gold, low-slung, and completely useless. It had the spirit of California freedom, with the ergonomics of a prank. Sure, it turned heads. It also turned getting in and out into a core workout. In a world where convenience is king, the Dior was a reminder that sometimes style isn't just ahead of its time, it's completely out of touch with reality. Beautiful, yes, but practical? Only if you're shaped like a surfboard. Number 7. Mercedes-Benz F15. The Mercedes-Benz F15 was supposed to be the future of luxury mobility. A self-driving lounge where you could sit face-to-face with your passengers, sip tea, and glide silently through the city like a tech billionaire on mute. There was a glowing coffee table in the middle, 4 swiveling chairs, and enough LED mood lighting to make a nightclub feel insecure. It looked serene, sophisticated, visionary, but then you realize there's no steering wheel where it should be, no clear backup plan. If the car's AI blinked at the wrong time or a cyclist darted into its path, your only defense was eye contact and good luck. Picture it, you're lounging in your ergonomic pod, discussing startup pitches when a dog runs across the road. You reach instinctively for controls that don't exist, while your cup of chai floats mid-air like a warning from the universe. Mercedes called it autonomous design. Reality called it deeply optimistic. The F15 wasn't just a car. It was a lifestyle fantasy that quietly forgot the part where we live in a world full of potholes, toddlers, and unpredictable chaos. Number 6. Ferrari Modulo. The Ferrari Modulo was less a car and more a fever dream pressed into sheet metal. It sat inches off the ground, a sleek silver wedge with a canopy roof that slid forward like something out of a Cold War sci-fi film. The design was jaw-dropping, seductive, and completely indifferent to human survival. No doors, no visibility, no chance of escape if things went sideways. Literally. You did not enter the Modulo so much as lower yourself into it like a capsule, hoping nothing caught fire while you admired the view from inside your designer tomb. It had a powerful V12 engine that could outrun most things on the road, but unless you were drag racing on salt flats in perfect conditions with a pit crew nearby, you were mostly just praying. Flip it, you're toast. Break down, hope you packed a crowbar. It was a car designed to be stared at, not driven, the kind of object you keep behind velvet ropes and whisper about. The Modulo was proof that even at the highest levels of automotive art, form can completely abandon function and still leave everyone clapping. Number 5. 1957, Aurora. In 1957, a Catholic priest named Father Alfred Giuliano decided that modern cars weren't safe enough. So he took matters into his own hands. The result was the Aurora, a bulbous chrome-plated tank built to survive crashes and, ironically, cause them. Imagine a car with a bubble dome windshield, awkwardly swooping curves, and a face that looked permanently startled. It was wide, heavy, and somehow managed to trigger rubbernecking accidents just by existing. This wasn't just ugly, it was unforgettable in all the wrong ways. Giuliano meant well, loading the Aurora with innovations like a padded dashboard, seatbelts, and a collapsible steering column years ahead of their time. But the execution? It was like someone designed it blindfolded. While riding a unicycle, it broke down constantly, leaked oil like a political scandal, and required so much money to maintain that it bankrupted both the car and its creator. Worst of all, its sheer oddity made people panic on the road, swerving just to avoid looking at it for too long. This car wasn't unsafe because it lacked features. It was unsafe because no one could take it seriously. That's the paradox. The Aurora was too far ahead for its time, but built with none of the grace to bring people with it. And maybe that's the real danger of some concept cars. They're driven by good intentions, visionary ideals, and dreams of a better future. But when they hit the pavement with awkward design and clumsy engineering, they stop being icons and start becoming punchlines. The Aurora tried to save lives and ended up being a symbol of what happens when boldness isn't balanced with execution. You cannot force progress by building louder. Sometimes the best innovation isn't what's radical. It's what quietly works. But that wasn't the Aurora. It shouted its brilliance at the top of its lungs and then sputtered to a stop on the side of the highway. Number 4. Jeep Hurricane. The Jeep Hurricane wasn't just a concept car. It was a wild idea that somehow made it off the sketchpad and onto a show floor without anyone yelling, "Wait, what?" Built to celebrate Jeep's legacy of off-road dominance, the Hurricane came loaded with not one, but 2 Hemi V8 engines. Combined, they delivered over 600 horsepower and could power each wheel independently. That meant this thing didn't just turn, it spun, literally. The Hurricane could rotate 360 degrees on its own axis like a giant gleaming fidget spinner with leather seats. And while it was a brilliant engineering stunt, it also raised a deeply human question. Why? Why does any off-roading vehicle need to twirl in place like it's auditioning for Cirque du Soleil? Sure, it could climb rocks, ford rivers, and leave donut marks on your soul. But it also came with a delicate promise of total insanity the moment something went wrong. With no doors, no roof, and zero concern for subtlety, the Hurricane wasn't built for trails. It was built to terrify your neighbors. It wasn't fuel efficient. It wasn't practical. It wasn't even remotely interested in restraint. Jeep built it to flex, to show off, to say, "We can do this," even if no one was asking them to. The idea of controlling 2 massive engines with torque vectoring and tank turn capability sounds like a video game fantasy. But in real life, it edges closer to vehicular mischief than transportation. The Hurricane was peak concept madness, a car that looked like a hero vehicle in a post-apocalyptic blockbuster and handled like a rotating missile. Yes, it was brilliant. Yes, it was unforgettable. But no, it had no business ever being mass-produced. Sometimes the most dangerous ideas aren't the ones that fail quietly. They're the ones that work just well enough to tempt you into believing they belong on the road. Number 3. Chrysler Turbine. In the 1960s, Chrysler looked at jet engines and thought, why not put one in a family car? Thus came the Chrysler Turbine, a sleek copper-toned sedan powered not by a piston engine but by a modified jet turbine. It ran on just about anything: diesel, kerosene, tequila, even Chanel No. 5 if you were feeling glamorous and unhinged. On paper, it was the future. Low maintenance, fewer moving parts, and the kind of engine note that made you feel like you were late for takeoff. But then came the catch. The exhaust was so blisteringly hot, it could melt anything left behind it: trash cans, lawn chairs, your neighbor's poodle if it lingered too long.
Chrysler politely advised owners to never reverse into garages, and God help anyone who tailgated at a stoplight. Imagine living on a suburban cul-de-sac only to hear your friend start their turbine car and slowly scorch a perfect black circle into the driveway. Environmentally advanced? Maybe. Environmentally safe? Not remotely. The car was handed out to a lucky group of public testers in the early 60s, and while many of them loved the space-age aura and aircraft-like whine, others quickly learned that being a pioneer often means living with fire hazards. This wasn't just a car, it was a barbecue pit on wheels. To make matters worse, jet fuel isn't exactly grocery store convenient, and while it could technically burn vegetable oil, most people weren't ready to deep fry their commute. The idea was noble, the execution was blistering, literally. The Chrysler Turbine wasn't killed by performance issues or public rejection, it was killed by fear. Fear that the technology, while thrilling, was too temperamental, too unpredictable, too willing to torch the things we took for granted, like garage walls, or city regulations, or the eyebrows of anyone standing too close. Chrysler dreamed big, and for a brief moment they actually pulled it off. But not every dream belongs in a driveway.
Number 2.
Pujo Movie. Pujo's Movie wasn't just a concept car, it was a marshmallow with wheels. Debuted in the mid-2000s, this adorable orb-shaped vehicle was meant to symbolize the future of urban eco-mobility. It had bubbly glass panels, soft curves, and all the structural integrity of a bouncy castle. It looked like something you'd win from a vending machine in Japan, not drive into city traffic. Pujo positioned it as the perfect solution for crowded, environmentally conscious cities, lightweight, space-saving, and powered by your good intentions. But then came the tests, or more accurately, the reasons they stopped doing tests. The Movie was so fragile, so catastrophically unprepared for even mild collisions, that imagining it in a fender bender felt like watching a balloon fight a brick wall. Safety wasn't just compromised, it was politely ignored. You could total it with a shopping cart. Hitting a speed bump at the wrong angle might qualify as an accident report. It wasn't just unsafe, it was a philosophical question. What happens when your desire to protect the planet outweighs your instinct for personal survival? The Movie tried to be gentle in a world that isn't, and while that's noble, it's also deeply naive. Cars, for better or worse, exist in an ecosystem of chaos. Kids running across the road, blind corners, distracted drivers. The Movie offered no protection, just optimism sculpted into glass and foam. Its tiny footprint, clear doors, and charmingly innocent design made it an instant media darling. But under the spotlight, it wilted. There was no steel cage, no safety tech, just vibes and vulnerability. And while it never reached production, the Movie lives on as a reminder that good intentions are not the same as good engineering. In the hierarchy of concept cars, it ranks high for idealism and low for realism. It wanted to hug the planet, but forgot to hug its driver.
Number 1. Sparrow Autobow,
Stomach Down Steering Wheel Edition. And finally, we arrive at the crown jewel of concept car absurdity, the Sparrow Autobow. A machine so wildly disconnected from human anatomy, it makes every other entry on this list feel like a rational compromise. Picture this. To drive it, you lie flat on your stomach. Not reclined, not low slung, flat. Like a sniper in a ghillie suit. Your arms stretched out, gripping a steering wheel mounted just inches below your chin. There is no cockpit, no roof, no attempt to accommodate spinal curvature or even basic comfort. The Autobow offered one view and one view only, directly down at the asphalt, like your shame was painted onto the pavement in front of you. Sparrow called it a racing prototype. We call it a chiropractor's recurring revenue plan. It had a V12 engine and a futuristic spaceship-like aesthetic. But all that power was wrapped in a design that treated the driver like a plank of meat with knees. There was no visibility, no crash safety, and no reason. It felt like a dare, proof that someone in a design meeting said, "Let's ignore everything we know about humans." And no one stopped them. The Autobow wasn't just dangerous, it was anti-human. It was less a car and more a mechanical prank, sent from the future to remind us that innovation, when unchecked, can quickly veer into parody. And if there's one thing we can all agree on, lying belly down in a high-speed missile with no roll cage is not what progress should look like. So the next time someone says, "Cars today are boring," just show them this list of death traps, rotating donuts, and fabric-skinned fever dreams. Because just because you can imagine it doesn't mean you should build it or sit inside it at 80 miles an hour. Smash the like button faster than a Chrysler Turbine torches your recycling bin, and if you want more beautiful disasters in your feed, hit subscribe. Or I swear I'll bring back the BMW Gina, and this time I'll make it sneeze. You've been warned. See you in the next one.